An extraordinary update for you in the Blake Lively-Justin Baldoni legal battle. This is a case in which Blake Lively accuses her co-star from the movie It Ends With Us, Justin Baldoni, who is also the creator of this movie. He's the one who optioned the book and had the idea for it to begin with, of sexual harassment and disparagement. Baldoni cross-claimed, saying Lively is a nasty bully who is unfairly blaming and disparaging him for the negative press she generated with her disastrous promo tour around the release of their movie back in August 2024. News broke in July that Lively had begun sending subpoenas to podcasters and others who had said or written negative things about her, from Candace Owens and Perez Hilton to people you've likely never heard of, like Zach Peters. She targeted more than a dozen journalists and online creators, igniting a free speech firestorm. We can now reveal that we were among those targeted by Blake Lively. We fought her subpoena and won. She backed down and has now missed the deadline to pursue her harassment of me and my team any further. Sorry, sweetheart, you might want to try harder the next time. But in any event, we gave her absolutely nothing. Not one document, not one record, not one communication. In no world would I ever allow my teams or my communications with each other or with our sources for our news reporting to be turned over to a third party, and certainly not to this nitwit. It's called the First Amendment, freedom of the press. She has zero right to nose around in how I gather news or in how my team and I prepare for any show we do. Pro tip, we're extremely fair. We are extremely thorough, factual, and unsparing of any public figure, and frankly, of ourselves when it comes to our own high standards. But access to our actual communications, it's a no. You cannot have them. I am a member of the press. You are a sad, pathetic, untalented, narcissistic bully. And I will never back down to the likes of Blake Lively. Never. And her fight to harass me and my team ended in her getting nothing. Nothing.
What should have been Blake Lively's big movie moment with It Ends With Us quickly turned into a legal nightmare. She accused her co-star and director, Justin Baldoni, of harassment and mistreatment. But Baldoni hit back, claiming Blake was the real problem, allegedly controlling every detail of the production and then blaming him when the press tour collapsed.
I don't think people realize how involved she was in this movie. She was extremely involved.
A film meant to boost careers suddenly became the center of a bitter courtroom feud. And as messy as that was, it was only the beginning, because Blake's next move would shock everyone.
Lively's learning the hard way that Cord is not Hollywood. I'm sorry, come again. You don't get to, this isn't a Colleen Hoover movie. You don't get to pick and choose who you have to work with and who you don't.
Instead of keeping the fight inside the courtroom, Blake Lively went on the offensive. Reports say she began issuing subpoenas to anyone who had spoken negatively about her, not just big names like Candace Owens or Perez Hilton, but also smaller podcasters, YouTubers, and journalists who never expected to be dragged into a Hollywood feud. What should have been a legal strategy quickly became a public relations disaster. To many, it looked less like protecting her name and more like silencing free speech. Critics called it intimidation. Fans saw it as an attempt to crush voices that didn't have the money or lawyers to fight back. And then came the boldest move of all. Blake turned her sights on Megyn Kelly, a journalist known for never backing down. That single decision changed everything.
It's ironic, of course, that in an effort to disprove that she's an unlikable bully brat who did not deserve any of the negative press she received, Blake Lively acts like an unlikable bully brat who cannot believe any of that negative press could possibly be genuine.
If Blake Lively thought Megyn Kelly would be an easy target, she miscalculated. The moment news broke that Blake had subpoenaed her, Megyn fired back publicly and unapologetically. On her show, she accused Blake of trying to weaponize the courts to silence critics. She framed it not as a celebrity feud, but as a much bigger issue: freedom of speech versus Hollywood power.
There are still many content creators whom we believe are actively being bullied by Blake Lively to this day. We were in the fortunate position of being able to hire a lawyer to tell Lively to pound sand. Most of the people she's harassing do not have those resources, and she knows it. She's targeting them because she knows she can. She's richer, better connected, with high-powered lawyers who have nothing but time and billable hours on their hands, thanks to Ryan Reynolds' booze and acting fortunes. These two Hollywood mega millionaires think nothing of harassing powerless people on social media who have the temerity to write or speak negatively about Queen Blake.
Kelly's words hit hard. Instead of backing down, she doubled down, inviting legal experts and commentators to weigh in, all questioning why a star like Blake would drag journalists into her personal legal drama. Within days, the story wasn't about Justin Baldoni anymore. It was about Blake's fight with the press. And once Megyn lit the fire, it didn't take long for others to join in.
Blake Lively is continuing to face mean girl allegations, this time from an assistant director who worked with her on the set of A Simple Favor. A Simple Favor starring Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick came out a few years ago, and the sequel, which is called Another Simple Favor, is set to release on May 1st. Blake's co-star in the film, Henry Golding, shared this movie poster on his Instagram, and a woman named Barbara Zeman, who worked as an assistant director for the first film, commented on his post. She says, "I worked with you on the first one. My experience with everyone was absolutely amazing, except for a certain someone who was the reason I quit being an AD. Guess who that person is? I wish you all the best with this though." In another comment, she says, "Thanks for the kindness. I want to avoid attention around this, but I will say she was cruel to many. I know I cried my way home many nights because you try so hard to please someone who is never pleased and puts you down constantly. I can't believe it's actually getting back at her. Karma is real."
Once Megyn Kelly put the spotlight on Blake, the floodgates opened. Suddenly, other media voices, big and small, were chiming in. Podcasters, YouTubers, and columnists started dissecting every move Blake made, painting her as a Hollywood star trying to muzzle free speech. Even those who had stayed quiet before saw an opportunity. Some sources say they felt protected now that Megyn had spoken up, while others simply wanted to ride the wave of attention. Either way, the narrative shifted fast. Blake was no longer seen as the wronged actress defending her reputation. She was now the one being accused of overreach, of turning her battle into a witch hunt. And the louder the criticism grew, the harder it became for her to control the story.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got two nice ones.
They are kind of bumps, aren't they?
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
But things were about to escalate even further when one surprising ally entered the fray. Just when it seemed like Megyn Kelly was leading the charge alone, Candace Owens stepped in, and she did it with her usual fire. Owens blasted Blake Lively on social media and on her own platform, calling the subpoena not just aggressive, but dangerous. She claimed Hollywood elites were trying to bully critics into silence, and Blake had become the face of that campaign. Owens didn't hold back. She labeled the move a direct attack on journalism, warning that if someone like Blake succeeded, it could set a precedent for other celebrities to do the same. Her bold words electrified her followers and added fuel to an already raging fire.
And so people just know this behind the scenes. You should just know that she is a bit of a brat, okay?
This is yet another entitled, nasty, elitist Hollywood snob.
And with Owens now in the mix, the story wasn't just Blake versus Megyn anymore. It had become a full-blown cultural flashpoint. The debate was no longer confined to entertainment gossip. It was spilling into conversations about politics, censorship, and who really controls the narrative in Hollywood. But as the noise grew louder, Blake faced a dilemma. Should she push forward or retreat before things got even messier? For years, Blake Lively built an image as Hollywood's sweetheart, the actress who stayed away from scandals, kept her personal life relatively private, and always appeared polished on the red carpet. She was admired for her elegance, her marriage to Ryan Reynolds, and the fact that she didn't get caught up in the mess that often surrounds celebrities. But this subpoena shifted the narrative overnight.
Remember that. The next time you see Ryan Reynolds trying to pawn himself off as the super nice guy, aw shucks, as he tries to blow apart the lives of these content creators who happen to think she's a liar. He's a bully too.
Instead of being celebrated for protecting her image, many felt Blake had crossed a dangerous line. Fans who once saw her as untouchable now questioned whether she was trying to silence criticism rather than rise above it. Comment sections filled with comments like, "Why would she do this?" and "Isn't she rich and famous enough without dragging people into court?" Entertainment analysts also chimed in. Some argued that Blake had underestimated how the public would react. After all, audiences tend to root for underdogs, not celebrities who already hold massive influence and wealth. By targeting Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens, two figures known for fighting back, Blake had unintentionally positioned herself as the bully, and the optics weren't flattering. Sources close to Hollywood PR circles allegedly warned that the damage could be long-lasting. When stars get entangled in lawsuits or public feuds, the headlines tend to overshadow their work. Suddenly, it's not about Blake's acting projects or fashion achievements, it's about whether she's trying to control the narrative. Even her fan base appeared divided. Some defended her, saying she had every right to protect herself from what she believed were unfair attacks, but others accused her of hypocrisy, pointing out that celebrities live off public attention, yet often lash out when that same attention turns critical. Behind the scenes, reports claim Blake's team was scrambling. Advisors allegedly urged her to either soften her approach or risk losing the very image she had spent years curating. Every move she made was under a microscope. Did she smile at a public event? People speculated she was trying to appear unbothered. Did she remain silent online? Critics claimed it was proof she was hiding something. And the timing made it even trickier. With multiple projects and endorsements on the line, brands were said to be watching closely. Companies don't like attaching their names to controversy, and whispers suggested that some deals were already under quiet review. For Blake, it was a turning point. Would she push forward and fight harder, or step back to save her public image? Whatever she chose, the next move had the power to define her career for years to come. But just when everyone thought this was the climax of the drama, something unexpected happened that nobody saw coming. Just when it seemed like Blake Lively's legal battles and PR struggles were the peak of the story, an unexpected development changed everything. Reports surfaced that some of her closest connections in Hollywood were quietly distancing themselves. Friends she had relied on for support, sources say, were hesitant to be publicly involved in her dispute. The optics were glaring. The Golden Girls suddenly looked isolated. Taylor Swift, long rumored to be a close friend of Blake, became a focal point of speculation. Fans noticed that Swift was noticeably absent from the public discussion about Blake's subpoena drama. Some insiders say Swift quietly stepped back, refusing to be drawn into a feud she didn't want to touch. Online chatter exploded when fans began connecting dots, pointing to a potential reference in Swift's new album. Track 6, titled Ruin the Friendship, sparked theories that it might be shading Blake, highlighting the perception that even her high-profile allies were no longer willing to defend her. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds, usually the charming and witty counterbalance to Blake's public persona, remained silent. Every subpoena Blake filed, every journalist she tried to intimidate, seemed to place Reynolds in an awkward position. Sources say this silence didn't go unnoticed. Fans started questioning whether he was truly supportive or complicit, and social media debates over his role quickly gained traction. As the public narrative shifted, Blake's critics found new energy. Social media posts dissecting her past press tours, viral clips of tense interviews, and behind-the-scenes accounts from former crew members started circulating more widely than ever. Each new revelation reinforced the growing narrative. Blake was her own worst enemy. Every attempt to control the story only amplified scrutiny, exposing vulnerabilities she may never have anticipated. And yet, despite the mounting pressure, Blake didn't retreat. Sources say she doubled down on her legal efforts, targeting smaller creators who lacked the resources to fight back. But in doing so, she unintentionally magnified the story, drawing attention to her own actions rather than silencing critics. Every move she made seemed to backfire, and the twist was clear. The more she tried to assert power, the more public perception turned against her. What started as a feud over a single movie had now morphed into a full-blown cultural spectacle, with Hollywood insiders, media figures, and fans all watching as Blake's carefully curated image began to unravel in real time. And while she fought on multiple fronts, one thing became undeniable: the spotlight was no longer in her favor. And as the drama escalated, one more revelation would push the story to its breaking point. By now, Blake Lively's carefully crafted image as Hollywood royalty was in serious jeopardy. What was meant to be a high-profile movie moment had turned into a public spectacle highlighting every misstep, every clash, and every perceived hypocrisy. The subpoenas, intended to protect her reputation, had done the opposite. They amplified the criticism and made her look desperate to control the narrative. Megyn Kelly, who had once been just another journalist, emerged as the ultimate victor in this feud. Her calm, sharp response exposed a simple truth: Blake's power struggles were self-inflicted. Kelly didn't need to invent anything. Blake had handed the ammunition herself, from tense press tour moments to public meltdowns, and the court of public opinion had noticed. The fallout didn't stop there. Crew members from past projects spoke out, sharing stories of difficult experiences and contributing to a long-standing mean girl reputation. Social media clips, fan anecdotes, and behind-the-scenes accounts painted a picture of someone struggling to balance celebrity power with accountability. Even Blake's allies, once thought untouchable, seemed to fade away. Reports suggest Taylor Swift kept her distance, while Ryan Reynolds' usual charm was overshadowed by the perception of complicity. In the public eye, Blake appeared isolated, and the story was no longer about the movie or even the lawsuit. It was about her unraveling image. Meanwhile, smaller content creators who had been targeted by subpoenas found unexpected support online. Each attempt to silence them only amplified their voices, turning Blake's legal maneuvers into public lessons about the risks of overreach. Every move she made reinforced a single narrative. The more she fought, the more she exposed herself. And in the end, the lesson was unmistakable. Blake Lively didn't just lose a legal battle, she became a cautionary tale of how unchecked power, miscalculated aggression, and public missteps can spiral into a career-defining implosion. Her story is now a mix of lessons on reputation, public perception, and the undeniable truth that sometimes the only person standing in your way is yourself. The subpoenas failed, the critics multiplied, and Megyn Kelly walked away stronger than ever. Blake's career, though not over, had been irrevocably reshaped, and as Hollywood watchers continue to speculate, the question remains, will Blake recover? Or has this chapter permanently altered the public's perception of one of the industry's most carefully managed stars?